Tell you what, man, we have a lot to discuss. That was, I don't want to say the word encouraging because you scraped away with one against the worst team in the NBA, at least the West. But there's a lot of telling signs that you can take from this Knicks team with the guys that they expect to have for the postseason. This game had a lot, and early on, at least in the first half, letdown game vibes all around. Just felt like it was going to be one of those nights where you forget about, you flush it. But the Knicks did pick up their defense later in the second half. And again, it was kind of like, it's just like what we were talking about in the last episode. I don't want to use the term that starts with an S, that ends with an L, but like the way that they are now just night after night pulling wins out of thin air. That Pacers game, the Hawks game, the Cleveland game on Christmas, and now last night after being down all game, everything it's finding a way to course correct. It just seems like it's one of those seasons where everything is just going right at the end of the day, like it's meant to be. The shots that are meant to rim out are rimming out so we can get those rebounds, and we're getting those rebounds. The shots that are meant to drop to suddenly tie the game are dropping. Jordan Poole, that flop job at the end, just landing into our lap. Like, I'm not saying the Knicks lucked into it, but like sometimes that's what's happening in a season where things go right. It's like anything, everything is happening. It's like the basketball gods are just putting everything there right now, and the Knicks are taking it. They're winning all these games with all these injuries. And again, like I started off with, Deuce McBride comes back last night, and that's going to be the theme of this episode. Basically, just going to talk about the many ways the Knicks are able to get different things on both sides of the court with Deuce out there. But it wasn't just him, man. Mohamed Diawara, he comes out hot in the first quarter, knocking down shots. But so do Sadiq Bey and Zion Williamson in the first half. So OG Anunoby then goes on his rampage in the second quarter. They're deep, man. Kind of offsets Zion's run, keeps it close at halftime. OG's rebounding and his finishing ability has developed so much with the Knicks. It's making him such a threat in transition. But even in half-court one-on-ones. And then you get to the third quarter, the Knicks offense cools down. But they were getting great looks. Defense steps up. Fourth quarter, they get a number of big stops and a number of big baskets. Deuce and Towns, back-to-back threes from them to tie the game. Deuce ties it. Cat gives them the lead. And then Brunson, just doing it every night. Jalen Brunson with a number of clutch shots lately. It's getting incredible, the insane run that Jalen Brunson is on right now in the clutch. So he helps the Knicks to a 130-125 win over the Pelicans last night at Smoothie King Arena. It sounds ridiculous to say out loud. But Jalen Brunson, I decided to give him the game ball. I know he didn't have the best of games, but my rule is I grade on a curve very sparingly. But when I do, it's when a guy is knocking down big-time shot after big-time shot. And I think he had a couple more. I think he went 4 for 5 in the fourth quarter, and all those baskets came with like 5 minutes and change remaining or less. Awesome. Insane run. He's getting his clutch performance back to where it was last year when he won Clutch Player of the Year. So he's doing his thing. And just 16 game balls now on the year for Jalen. He gets one last night. Giving it to him. 28 points in this game. 10 assists to 1 turnover is awesome. 5 out of 10 from 3. 3 of 3 at the foul line. 36 minutes played. That's what I want to talk about. You know, all the bitching and moaning because NBA fans claim to love the game. And then every second they get to, you know, talk shit about a superstar of the game, they will. And, you know, the little boy who lost the NBA Cup, the rookie kid, what's his name, Wembanyama? You know, he makes those interesting comments a couple of games before the Cup or a couple of days or whatever it was about ethical hoops, right? The dumb comment. And then he loses. Well, how's this? You know, after him and after Cleveland fans were crying and bitching on Christmas Day, how about this? Jalen Brunson's last 2 games, he scored 62 points on 3 free throw attempts. And the funnier part about that is that he's still doing that on 58% true shooting, which is good. But for a small guard who is not getting to the line lately, that's funny. So all that noise for what? And then Brunson has a game where he gets to the line a bunch and he's a foul bidder. But he has a game where he doesn't get the line and he needs a lot of shots. Pick it. Pick a side, stay there. My captain, my superstar, my MVP. He's top 4, I think, in the voting right now. Or in the ladder. So Jalen Brunson, I'm handing him the game ball from the starting unit. But like I said, this episode is going to be centered around Deuce McBride because I thought Deuce was the best player. Here's one. The best player out of that 6-man second unit last night. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But Deuce McBride comes back. In his first game back, he receives a game ball. He now has 5 game balls on the season. 14 points for Deuce last night. Shot 4 out of 8. 2 for 5 from 3. 4 out of 4 at the foul line. Picked up a steal. Was a +8 in 18 minutes. Great offense. Defense came around. You know, he starts the game with that rough and 1, but you saw it. But Deuce McBride, man, going forward, keeping him healthy, keeping OG healthy, keeping Mitch healthy is really like, obviously you want everybody healthy, but those are the 3 guys you worry about health-wise, and they're also so important to this team on both ends. But Deuce McBride, I want to start out here by talking about the importance of shooting gravity. And for those of you who listen to my show, who maybe watch my show, I talk about this all the time. Floor space and gravity, right? When Deuce McBride last night was off of the floor, you saw what the Pelicans were doing. When Deuce was off and Mo Diawara was on, because Diawara is not the same floor spacer Deuce is, he was treated as the de facto Josh Hart, right? Where the Pelicans would cross-match Towns and Diawara. They would put Sadiq Bey on Towns. They would put Derek Queen on Diawara, the big. Mike Brown's willingness to go to 5 out, and obviously right now he kind of has to with the injuries, but he's been doing it all year. His willingness to play 5 out has been huge because with Deuce on the floor as a 3-point threat, that makes it incredibly difficult for the Pelicans to pre-rotate help to any action because there are no non-threats on the floor to ghost off of. It makes it incredibly difficult for the Pelicans to switch the Brunson Towns pick and roll with a wing. What that does is it takes away a clean 3-point look because you're switching and staying in front. And it also makes it very difficult for Brunson to score because he has to get by a wing instead of a big on the perimeter. But with Deuce on the floor last night, the Pelicans, you saw, were doing anything they could so that they didn't give Brunson the full-on switch onto a big. And if they conceded the switch anyway, Brunson would ISO for a basket since, you know, they couldn't send help because the Knicks were playing 5 out late. Can't send help when you're in 5 out because you're leaving a shooter open. If the Pelicans played it straight up and they stuck, Brunson get an ISO basket. If they blitzed the coverage, which you saw multiple times later in the game, Brunson would hit Deuce or he'd hit Mikhail in the pocket, right? Showed great patience, waited for the blitz to develop, would hit the pocket. That would put the Pelicans in rotation in the back. And you saw examples of that, all of that stuff, throughout the fourth quarter last night. There was a possession with 3.5 minutes to go. The Knicks are down 3 points. Brunson gets a pull-up three-pointer out of it because the Knicks were in a 5-out. So the 5 was back on Cat. The Knick guards were on the wings. You had a Brunson Yabu pick and roll at the top. Deuce was spacing one pass away. That's key here. So the Pels, they switched Zion on. But because Deuce is a shooting threat and he's one pass away, they can't send help to Brunson. So Brunson knocks down a 3 in Zion Williamson's mouth to tie the game. Why is that play successful? Because with the Pelicans in double big format, they had Queen and Zion on the floor. Brunson was able to take advantage of the Zion switch. When you get him a big in the pick and roll, he can kill it. But also because Deuce can shoot, you can't send help to Brunson off the strong side. Another possession, another possession with 40 seconds left in the game. The Knicks are up 1 point. Brunson gets that left-handed finish, again, because the Knicks are in 5-out. So you have the big on Cat again. You have the Knick guards on the wings again. Why? We'll talk about that. But you get the Brunson Cat pick and roll at the top with Deuce one pass away again. The Pelicans, this time they switched Looney on. It was more like a failed blitz, but Looney gets the switch on. But because Deuce is a shooting threat, the Pelicans can't send help to Brunson. Brunson gets by Looney. He goes left on him for an easy finish. So again, why was it successful? 1, it's easy for Brunson to get by big on the perimeter. 2, because Deuce can shoot, you can't send help to Brunson off the strong side. The most that Trey Murphy could do there, who was on Deuce at that time, was a quick stunt over. But he had to get back. That cleared up the left lane. So in all of these instances, it just showed the importance of having 5 spacers on the floor. If it was Josh Hart instead of Deuce McBride last night, or in this case, let's use Mohamed Diawara, right, who is much more of a shooting threat than Josh Hart, we think. But he doesn't have that respect that Deuce does, not even close. So if it was a non-threat out there like Josh Hart or Mo instead of Deuce, what happens? What happens is the Pelicans get to cross-match it, so they get to put the wing back on Towns to get the favorable switch off the pick and roll. And 2, they get to send help off the corner with that big, with much less consequence, because whoever's out there is not a knockdown shooter. So I thought it was a very, very smart move by Mike Brown to close with his best floor spacers, and that, I think, is going to be key for them in the playoffs. Everybody wants to talk about what's the starting lineup going to be. Who's the lineup that's going to close games for the Knicks? And I think the lineup that closes games for you has to be the one that emphasizes floor space and point of attack defense. And there's one guy who gives you both of that, and that's Deuce McBride. So shout out to Mike Brown, because I thought he coached a hell of a game. Not only was it a smart move by Mike Brown to close with McBride to avoid those help and switch problems, but he continues to trust everybody else in this rotation. He's empowering the younger players to the max. That's the difference. He's trusting them to a larger degree than Tibbs was. Everybody likes to say Tibbs didn't trust him. Tibbs had some trust, but it was not nearly the trust that you're seeing right now, and it's paying off. The different lineup combinations that you're seeing, right? He starts Mo Diawara again. He's going to all types of different 5-out lineups. He had Yabu at the 4 with Cat at the 5. He had Yabu at the 5 with OG at the 4. Or he had the normal OG at the 4, Cat at the 5. Playing multiple smalls together again. 2 smalls, 3 smalls, sharing the floor. But going to a 12-man rotation overall. A legitimate 12-man rotation. You didn't really see any bullshit. You'll play like 2 minutes or anything like that. And on the other end of it, nobody was overplayed either, right? Your starters, your star players like Brunson and OG and Cat, Mikhail, all the high paid guys, they got their 35 minutes, give or take. But the youth got their fair run equally. Diawara played 18 minutes. Even Yabusele played 16 minutes. Huck Porty played 12 minutes. Kolek played 12 minutes. McCullough played 9 minutes. Trey Jameson saw the floor. I think he played 4 or 5 minutes. So that's the key. He's using everybody. And I want to give a shout out to the guys at Hot Hand Theory podcast I listen to on YouTube. They're also on Twitter. XJ of Hot Hand Theory, one of the coasts. Excellent stat that I stole here. This is amazing. Last season, OG played 40 minutes or more in 27 different games. Josh Hart played 40 minutes or more in 30 different games. Mikal Bridges played 40 minutes or more in 37 different games. So far this season, all three of those guys combined have played just 7 games of 40-plus minutes. That's a pace for 18 between the three of them playing at least 40. Last year, they finished 94. So it's a stark difference. And I know injuries have to do with some of this, but again, it's the extremes. And they're all continuing to play well, right? We know about Tyler Kolek and the run he's been on lately. We know about, Kevin McCullough just had a great game against the Hawks. And it was Mo Diawara last night, showing good instincts, good skill set, right? His shooting ability is allowed, he's stretching the floor, bending defenses, just being this long wing. If he can get to his defense, if he can get his defense to be at an above average to average level, that's wow. That's a difference. But he finishes the game with 18 points, 7 out of 9 shooting, 4 for 4 from 3. And again, even Yabusele knocked down a couple of corners early. He showed some good things and some bad things. But yeah, so what you're doing here is you're keeping guys fresh for the long run. You're learning new things and you're getting answers on schemes and rotation combinations and other things for the long run, right? And you're also, with the trade deadline coming up in about a month, you're increasing value on certain guys. You're building stock. So it's important for a lot of the reasons that we didn't see under Tibbs. And I said a few episodes back, like the problem with Tibbs is Tibbs played it safe a lot, which gave the Knicks a certain high floor, but it also capped their ceiling. Mike Brown is coaching to reach that ceiling, which means doing the opposite of playing it safe sometimes, right? He's willing to risk some mistakes because he's trying to get the best case. And it's not just a focus on the day ahead of us, it's focus on the long term, the entire time. We're trying to win a finals. We're not trying to win today. We're trying to win a finals. It's the long-term approach that's much better for this team. And I also thought Mike Brown, if we're talking about some of the good things he did last night, I liked how he adjusted defensive coverages a little bit in that first half. Because let's just be honest here. My gosh, the Knicks were getting ripped apart in coverage for a good portion of the game. It was kind of the same old. They were hurt a little bit in their help coverages. They were hurt on some size mismatches where Brunson was getting targeted. They were, of course, ripped apart at the point of attack. High coverage, switching, just leading to easy paint touches, which led to those kick-out threes or finishes at the basket, right? This happened time and time throughout the game, but especially in that first quarter, I felt like at least, if you put the Knicks in a drop coverage there instead of leveling them, it might have been a different story, because when you put them in high coverage, the issue with that is it leaves you vulnerable to the weak side. I do, however, appreciate Mike Brown adjusting to the Knicks getting beat a bit in high coverage in that first quarter. I appreciate him adjusting and going to a zone coverage for a little bit there, even though that, it's not really worked well with him this year. But to counter my own point, the problem when you have Karl Anthony Towns is that when you take him off of drop, when you get Towns when you get Towns away from drop, it's best for him if he's active. That's the problem. He has to be active if he's not in drop, or else he's going to get torched, just like you saw in the second quarter. When Towns is in drop, it can get ugly, but the thing about it is he doesn't have to do as much. When he's up high and he's switching on, he has to. It's so important that he has to be up in the guy's grill, in an active stance. His hands got to be up. He's got to be positioned correctly. And last night, I thought he was everything but that. Some very poor technique when he was in coverage, and it left Zion way too much space to get downhill and kill the Knicks. In that second quarter, Zion went nuts. He scored 15 of his 32 points. It felt like he scored a lot more than that. He was attacking cat switches off the pick and roll the entire time. You had right off the bat, with 10 minutes left, there's a possession. The Knicks switch cat on. Zion with a downhill finish off cat on cat off the pick and roll. Just poor technique from cat. 9 minutes left. The Knicks switch cat on. Zion draws contact on cat off the pick and roll. The very next possession after that, the Knicks switch cat on. Zion gets downhill, finishes on cat off the pick and roll. Just way too physical for cat. Cat really has somebody who can match his strength. But the next time down after that, the Knicks switch cat on again, and Zion draws more contact on cat off the pick and roll. You get the one, cat's out of the game. It's a couple of seconds before halftime. Huck Porty's in. They switch him on. Draws contact off him, off an empty side pick and roll. So it was tough. But you rewind to the first quarter, and it was Saddiq Bey who was going off. 23 of his 26 points came in that first. 3.5 minutes left in the first quarter. There was that one possession. Saddiq Bey gets a wing three off a pick and roll. The Knicks, they're in high coverage. Yabusele and Anunoby blitz it. So the roll's left open off the blitz. Diawara now has to tag the roll off the weak corner as low man. Guard makes the skip to the weak corner. Brunson now has to rotate over to pick up the corner man. The corner man makes the swing to the wing. Diawara is now late to close on the wing. Saddiq gets that three, leaving them vulnerable to the weak side. That's what I'm talking about. You also had a couple of possessions in that first quarter. They were just exploiting whenever the Knicks were too far in help. You had a possession where Saddiq Bey got a three with Diawara, helped them too far off in transition. There was a relocation three. Mikhail's in help. Leaves them a little too much room. But I do think that with Deuce McBride back, you could see some improvement coming. I will say, regarding the overhelping, I am looking forward to seeing how this defense looks, because they got some tougher teams coming up. If he's going to be healthy and he's going to be back into his role where he's defending up top at the point of attack, how that looks. Can the Knicks collapse a little bit less off drives since you've got your guy up top blowing up ball screens and DHO, right? I mean, that possession, there were possessions throughout this game where Deuce was showing his point of attack abilities. Just watching him 1 foot in the paint, in gap help to prevent the drive, but also doing a nice job recovering back out to the shooter if he needed to. There was the possession, obviously, when Jordan Poole, at the end of the game there, the flop, he fights through that Zion screen off on the handoff, gets bumped, recovers very quickly, enough to contest Poole, but doesn't foul him, doesn't bite on that lean, whatever you want to call it. That's where the game ends. So having him is just going to be key, because it just makes everything else click, right? And if you continue to get minutes from Diawara, who's played well, you think about the options, the possibilities, him and Anunoby together, switchability right there. You add a healthy Mitchell Robinson that could put Towns back at the 4. Those guys out there, Deuce at the point of attack. Deuce puts everybody else back into their best positions. Mikal Bridges and gap help off the point of attack. OG and low man help off the weak side. You have Deuce the one who's taking care of those pick and rolls up top. So I think it's something to look forward to. We'll see what happens next. The Knicks have the Spurs tomorrow night, a little New Year's Eve rematch, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We will see what happens there. I got to go. Something came up, so I'm going to end this one abruptly here, but we are going to get to a break, and we'll finish it off with our trivia, and that'll be it. Stay with us. Be back in a sec to wrap this one up.
Quick break here, guys. Stay connected with BD4 on social media. Follow us on Instagram and X at BD4Pod, and find us on Facebook by searching BD4. Don't miss out. Join the conversation. Want more BD4? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an episode. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and share with your fellow fans. Don't forget to ring that bell so you're always the first to know when a new video drops. Love BD4 but don't have the time to sit down and watch? Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star rating and a quick review. It helps us grow and keeps the conversation going.
Okay. Welcome back to the show. Ep 954, the Knicks win 131-25. Our trivia question for this episode: which current Knick is the only player on this roster who played for the Pelicans last season? Which current Knick is the only player on this roster who played for the Pelicans last season? All right. Let me know the answer. That's it. I appreciate you all tuning in. Any new subscribers or listeners, viewers, commenters, I appreciate it very much. Always do. I don't do this for, traffic or anything like that, but it is nice to see that people are recognizing my work, and I appreciate that. So I'll see you all very soon. Go Knicks. Hey guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.